Welcome to the Annenberg Radio News Audio Editing Workshop. This is going to be a quick refresher course for the workshops that you should have had at the beginning of the semester. For this one, we're going to be using Adobe Audition Creative Cloud and the audio that you recorded on your field recorder, also known as your Marantz. I'm going to go ahead and start. I've got my card reader plugged in. I've got my card. I'm going to go ahead and plug it in. And I'm going to go ahead and copy the stuff off from this card. So this is going to be audio files. It's going to be the MP Lang folder. And I've got a couple sample tracks here. The MZ means that it was from a Marantz. And then I also tracked some audio here in the audio booth so that I've got some voiceover to work with as well. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go to my computer. In Radio Public, I'm going to find my People folder. And scroll down. If your People folder is not in here, feel free to make it. You want to always make sure that you put your documents inside these folders, because if these guys down here at the bottom, any random files may be deleted. So keep everything nicely organized. I'm going to go find my file folder. And I want to go ahead and create a new folder with today's training. So usually it's a good idea to do the date. I call it training. And then within here, I'll be able to copy all my files over. So right now I'm copying them from my removable disk. So this is from my CF card right here into my People folder. And this will take a second as it copies over. It's super important to have these copied over so you're not editing on your original files on your card. Because you may need to be editing on it and then suddenly have to run to class and someone else needs to finish your edit. And you go and you pull out your card because you're supposed to be holding onto your cards for the entire semester. And then someone goes to edit and they can't find your files. It's also important in case you do something wrong or something gets corrupted, the network had a glitch. You can always go back to your card and download the original files and you can replace it back into the project. So if you don't copy it off, you're just at risk of having corruption or someone else is not going to be able to help you out to finish up your piece, and there may be sadness all the way around. So now in my People folder, I have a copy of everything that was on my compact flash card. So I'm going to go ahead and close out, and to be on the safe side, I'm just going to remove the entire thing. So I'm going to remove the disk and physically unplug, take out my card. And since this card is what has my originals, I'm going to put this in a safe place, in a purse or a backpack or in that little plastic bag that it came in, just because I want to keep this around just in case everything else goes awry. Okay, now that we've got a copy to work from on the server, let's go ahead and launch Adobe Audition. Now, when it first loads up, I'm going to go ahead and just set a couple presets. Under the window, I'm going to do Workspace and make sure it's set to Classic. It will look very much like this. It will have on the left-hand side, you've got Files, which I'll be working from. We've got the Editor pane in the middle. The Transport, which is going to be your play, pause, forward, back commands. Time here, nice and large, so I know what time I'm working with. Zoom tools, we're pretty much only going to be using two of them, the zoom out and zoom in. Selection information, and then the ever important levels across the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and, now that I've got this open, highlight all these files from my folder on the server, click and drag, and it's going to open them up in Audition. And it's going to take a second here. You can see that it's going through and processing and making sure the files look okay. You're reading. Okay, so I've got all these set. So let's go ahead and create a session now. I've got a file, new. I'm going to create a multi-track session. In here, I'm going to call it, this is going to be training again. I'm going to go ahead and put the date as well, just in case I end up doing another training session. That way I'm not confused. Folder location, again, you want to make sure that you put it in the right place. I'm going to be putting it into Radio Public, same place as all my files, People, and look for mine here, Joel, and 10.2 training. And I'm going to call it the same thing. And I want to double check these settings look good. The sample rate should be 44/100, bit depth of 16, and the master of stereo. So everything looks good here. Templates, I'm going to leave it none. Click OK. And now you can see that you can work over here in the session. You can see over here in the files, these look like audio files, and this is a little bit different icon. You notice this is a .sesx, which stands for a session file. Because I saved it in that exact same folder, we can go back here and take a look, you can see that this is also going to have all these files, plus these random other ones that are labeled as Adobe Audition peak data files. For now, just ignore those. We'll pretty much never work with those PK files, as they're called. But in here, I should have a folder, and all by itself is Adobe Audition session file. And this is all sitting in this one training folder. This is very important if you're going to be doing a more long-term project, or if you're just going to be wanting to go back and edit it later. This will allow you to grab this entire folder, put it onto a thumb drive, a hard drive, maybe take it home if you want to do some editing at home, or even just come back later in the semester, maybe when you're getting ready to do a reel, apply for some internships. You can have all this in one spot. You can come back, open up this session file, and everything will be just as you left it. So it's just a good idea to keep all your files in the same place when you're working on projects. They're labeled correctly. It'll save you a lot of headache in the long term. A little bit about multi-track mode. Multi-track mode you can think of as kind of layers of audio. If you've worked in Photoshop, it's similar to the layers concept. Each of these tracks we're going to be laying audio in here. The playhead across the top, you can see the yellow and then the red line shows you where in the timeline it is. It's going to play any piece of audio that is on this timeline. So right now I have nothing in here. So when I play it, which the space bar is a great little shortcut for play, hit it again for pause. I've gone almost 3 seconds there. If I want to go just a fraction of a second, I'm going to use the arrow keys. I'm going to go fraction of a second. Each time I hit it, I'm moving another fraction of a second. If there was audio in here, I'd be hearing everything that's in these different audio tracks, just like layers. The other good thing about these tracks is it's really important to go ahead and label them. Here at Annenberg Radio News, labeling these means that everyone's going to keep their stuff in a similar track. That way, if you have to hand off your edit to someone else, they're going to be able to tell what pieces of audio are where. So track 1, I'm going to go ahead and click on the name of it here. If it doesn't highlight, go ahead and highlight it. And I'm going to call this SOT. Traditionally, it's soundbite on tape. You can also think of it as soundbite on track. This is where we're going to do our individual soundbites. Track 2 should be VO for voiceover tracking. Typically, this is something that you've done in the radio booth. The third one is going to be called ambient. And I'm going to call it ambient 1 just because track 4, I'm going to make ambient 2. And it helps if I can spell ambient. Let me go back here and add am. There we go. So ambient 1 and then ambient 2 down here are important because we're going to be recording ambient tracks when you're out in the field just to give a better sense of what's going on around you. Ambient tracks can at times make or break your audio, so make sure that you're recording the 2 minutes of just ambient noise or background noise, or sometimes it's referred to as nat sound. It'll really make your pieces sound better. Okay, now that everything's labeled in our multi-track mode, I'm going to remember to do save. Save is super critical. Power outages happen, network goes down. If you're not in a save state, you might lose stuff. You can tell that I haven't saved yet because up here next to each one of where it says the session files, it has this little star, a little asterisk. It's just saying, hey, make sure you do Control S, file save, and it disappears so you know that you're in the right state. Now for this, since I'm going to be working here in the timeline more, I'm going to click and drag over this center so that I can divide these a little bit differently and get a little more space to work. Okay, let's pull in a voiceover track. So Aaron track. So this is actually the voiceover from the radio booth that our own Aaron Schrank did. And he did a great job with labeling and keeping everything together. So thank you, Aaron, for helping us out. I'm going to go ahead and play this back using my space bar. I'm going to start where the playhead is.
3, 2, 1.
So you can kind of hear Aaron saying 3, 2, 1. This is from the radio booth training. it's always a good idea to do 3, 2, 1. That way it's easy to tell where your VO is going to start. Let me play here.
Californians don't usually vote for tax increases. In the past decade, they've defeated 10 tax hike measures and approved just one. But Proposition's 30s...
Oh, sounds like Aaron messed up. Let's go ahead and play the next section.
Californians don't usually vote for tax increases. In the past decade, they've defeated 10 tax hike measures and approved just one. But Proposition 30's chances for no... Okay. 3,
Oh, sounds like Aaron messed up again. Let's keep going.
Californians don't usually vote for tax increases. In the past decade, they've defeated 10 tax hike measures and approved just one.
There we go. So this is the right take. So since Aaron went ahead and did 3, 2, 1, this is going to make it a lot easier for us to find just the sections of voiceover we want to keep. He was working from a script, so he knows what he's going to say, but we don't necessarily know when we're coming in to edit, since it may be someone else editing. So using a couple shortcuts on the keyboard, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. So for this one, you want to do zoom in time. Each time I click it, I'm going to zoom in, trying to center on where this playhead starts. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in again. I'm going to start using a couple of shortcuts here, and I'll explain them. For zoom in, you can use the equal sign. It's also the plus sign on the keyboard. Each time I zoom in, you can see a little bit more of the waveform. And let me drag across the top, click and drag. And you can see here that Aaron's talking, and then he messes up. But now he does 3. So after Aaron says 1, I'm going to go ahead and hit the pause. That way it's in this silence between 3, 2, 1 and his tracking. And now I'm going to go ahead and do clip and split. What this is going to do is it now has created 2 separate tracks here. And if I zoom back out using the minus key or clicking on zoom out, you can see that I have this one section now all by itself. And this is just stuff that he messed up on. So I can either right click and do delete, or just hit the delete key on the keyboard. And now I've got all that space now, and the beginning of it is Aaron's correct track. So cool, we've done our first cut. Let's go ahead and find the end of this. I'm looking at the script here, and it looks like it should be right here. Okay, so there's the end of his clip. I'm going to do the exact same thing. On my playhead, let's zoom in just a little bit. I'm using plus on the keyboard. Yep, looks like it's in the right spots. After it's in the silence there. Clip. I'm going to split that clip. And now I can click and highlight. And ta-da! By clicking and moving, I can move around our first little audio clip here. So this is just straight VO. It was from the correct take. And we're all set to start working on the next one. So for the next one, it looks like he may have messed up a couple times. I've got my script here of what he said. I'm going to click and drag and try to find the right spot. Looks like that could be a 3, 2, 1. There it was, 3, 2, 1. Oh, I overshot just a little bit. I'm going to use my arrow keys and just back up a little bit. So I'm right in the middle of the silence. Do clip. Oh, I can't do split. Don't worry, this is a normal occurrence. It just means that you need to highlight it just so you can see, so it knows which one you're working on. There we go. Now I can split. And this is stuff that we don't want since he messed up. Right click, delete, or I'm just going to hit delete on the keyboard.
The theme of today's gathering.
There we go. So, theme of today's gathering. Let's see what we've got.
Is currently on life support.
Currently on life support. Okay. According to the script, that's where we should split for that one. So now we've got another one. Let me zoom out all the way here. There we go. If you ever need to zoom out all the way and you get tired of clicking down here to zoom out or hitting the minus key, you can use the zoom out full. It kind of looks like a compass with a magnifying glass. It's also up here just to make it nice and easy. To move around while you're zoomed in, you can also click and drag to move along the timeline at the top. Or if you end up having lots of files, you may need to click and drag over here. For here, we're only going to have soundbite, voiceover, and one ambient track, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. But I'm going to go ahead and zoom all the way out and just take a quick look. Yep, looks good. Okay, so I'm going to go through and just find a couple more clips. It sounds like I'm going to do the same thing. Highlight to make sure it's active. Clip, I'm going to split. Get rid of this little bit of silence there. I'm not really worrying at this point too much about getting it specifically right at the end of those clips. I'm getting it in the middle. We're going to come back and kind of tweak it and tighten it up here in a little bit. So I'm just pulling out, reading my script, making sure I've got all the different parts. Oh, I missed the 3, 2, 1. There we go. Let me zoom in. Do plus. There we go. That's better. If I highlight this clip, and I'm just cutting out all the parts that I don't want and just keeping the good parts.
Here's Rick Jacobs, chair of Courage Campaign, who organized today's event.
Okay, highlight, clip. So you can see that you can move through voiceover really fast. So I'm going to go all the way to the end here, and this is actually meant to be more of a 2-minute and 30-second piece. You always want to make sure that you know how long you're shooting for when doing voice tracking and then editing, because you may end up needing to cut out a bunch just like I'm doing here. Check with your producer to see how long your clip's supposed to be. Just like everything at ARN, you always want to have a SIG out. So Aaron, let's see if we can find his SIG out.
4 weeks away from
No. Here we go. This should be it.
Aaron Schrank, Annenberg Radio News.
There we go. Aaron does his SIG out. So it's just his name and then Annenberg Radio News. So I'm going to go clip, split, and looks like at the end we got a little extra space. I'm going to leave it for now. I'm not worried about it. It's silence. So I'm going to get rid of this whole middle section here. Just click on it, hit delete. Okay, I'm going to slide this guy back over. Zoom all the way out. So there we go. We've got voiceover. Right now, I'm not worrying about it too much. I know that these are the good chunks. So I'm going to go back and read my script and put them in the correct order. So that one's not in the order. So I probably want to just click and drag and move this guy over here. Let's listen to this.
Here's Rick Jacobs.
There we go. Now it's matching the order of my script. Okay, there we go, and it's SIG out. Okay, so I've got stuff. I've got all his voiceover here, and now we're gonna just go through and find the soundbite. The soundbite should be on one of these tracks. It's probably MZ220. I'm gonna go ahead and double click. So this is gonna take me into the single track mode. You never want to do any editing in single track mode because in here, it's known as being destructive editing, which means that any changes I make, I can't really undo very easily. You can go back a couple steps by doing edit undo, but this is just a bad idea to do. I'm just pulling it in here so I can use the controls and listen to to the audio. Oh, sounds like this may be a Nat soundtrack, so I'm going to double click on 34. Nope, another Nat soundtrack. Or ambience track. This, you can tell, looks more like an interview. Sound bites are on 235, so I'm going to go ahead and click back into multi-track. So I'm seeing here, I'm going to grab 235 here, drag it up here on the top, because it's going to be a sound bite. And I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to cut out all the stuff I don't want. In this case, there's a lot I'm going to be cutting out. We just want his one quote. But now if I play it...
Test. To begin, can you please say your name?
So now I'm hearing both my voiceover and my soundbite on tape track. So to fix this, I'm just going to hit this little S, which is labeled as solo. What that does is it'll gray out all these other ones, telling you that when you're playing stuff, you're only hearing this top track. This is great, especially if you have multiple tracks going down below, as we'll find out at the end. So let's go ahead and find his soundbites.
And,
There we go. And without this injection is what we're looking for. So my in cue on my script says that we should be cutting it right through here. Okay. So there's a spot. He's got a nice pause there. I'm going to go ahead and add a split. I know I don't want anything ahead of it, so I'm going to hit delete. Now let's listen.
And without this injection of oxygen, without this injection of resources, we fear that the California dream as we know it will die.
Okay, right there. Perfect. That's what we wanted. So I'm going to highlight it, do the same thing. I'm going to start using the split shortcut, which is Control-K, just because it's a lot faster. If you can get down some of these shortcuts, you'll be able to move through your audio a lot faster as well. Okay, highlight this, delete there. I'm going to zoom back out There we go. So now I've got my soundbite. I'm going to click and drag because I'm pretty sure it goes somewhere in here. Let me go ahead and turn off solo, and let's see if we can get this at least in the right gap here. So one thing that's great to have in here is I'm clicking and moving this around, and you're seeing this yellow line up here. This is snapping. This can be super helpful in especially doing a quick edit like this. Snapping is you can control it by being up here. So toggle snapping or just the S key. I'm going to press it, unpress it. Right now it's turned on, which means when I drag this, it kind of lines up, kind of becomes a little magnetic, and gets it right in the right spot. When this yellow line appears, it means that there's no gap between these two. So right now I've got overlap here, but I'm going to move it over here. I may have to bump a couple more, but with this turned on, you know that it's going to be lined up just right. So let's listen. Take a listen.
Like support.
Oh, give it a little bit more.
Audition says is currently on like support.
And without this injection of oxygen, without this injection of resources, we fear that the California dream as we know it will die.
Here's Rick Jacob.
Okay, there's a little bit of a pause there, but it's in the right spot. Okay, well, let's go ahead and pull all these guys back here. I'm just kind of cleaning up. Okay, so we have our voiceover and a soundbite. So now that we've got voiceover and soundbite, let's go ahead and add in some ambient track. I remember that 227 sounded like a pretty good ambient track. Oh yeah, that natural sound is just way too loud. I can tell that by looking down here. Well, first of all, I can look down here. So nat sound shouldn't be this loud. When I'm playing it back, it's looking like it's up into the -16, or you can see across the bottom that it's green with a little bit of yellow. That's a normal level for a voiceover. So let's take this down and make this a little bit quieter. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to click. So this yellow line, I'm going to click and hold, which will allow me to change the volume for the entire track. And I'm going to just bring it down. I'm going to start about 15 dB here.
Californians don't use
There we go. That sounds much better. It's more of a background than the primary focus of the story. Okay, so now I've got that. Now the levels, even though I'm looking at these and making sure that the levels look good, I'm also using my ears because when it comes down to it, people are going to be using their ears, not necessarily looking at your meters. But it's important to keep in mind that these meters will get you at least in the right area, and then you can tweak it a little bit later. Now let's just do a quick check and make sure that Aaron's voiceovers look good.
Californians don't usually
Yep, there we go. So he's about up to -9 down here.
tax hike measures and approve
It's okay if it bumps up a little bit higher every now and then, but generally this should be sitting right in this area.
30s.
So Aaron's levels look good. Okay, and I remember that we had a soundbite, so let me go ahead. I'm going to listen to the soundbite.
And without this injection of oxygen, without this injection of resources,
Yep, he looks pretty good too. So everything matches. So I've got a soundbite and a voiceover whose levels look good, and I've got nat sound here whose voice levels are down quite a bit, so they aren't overbearing. Okay, now let's do some fine tweaking and kind of tighten up this whole thing here. So I'm looking at this. Oh, I need to do Control S to save it. There we go. And I'm going to zoom all the way out so I can see everything here. So I know that this nat sound is just way too long. So I'm going to go about into here to the end. I'm going to click on it to highlight, clip, split. I'm just going to delete all this extra audio. That's way too much on there. And zoom in a couple times. And start working here. I'm going to just drag everything together. This is a very simple edit. You'll get much more complicated as it goes on, but this is a very linear and a good way to start. I'm just moving everything together. There we go. And let's take a listen.
Californians
Okay, so I've got a little bit of space here on the beginning of his track. So let's tighten this up a little bit. Typically you want to leave about 2 seconds. So if I look at this, I move my cursor to about 2 seconds. You'll see, oh, the voice track hasn't really started yet. So I'm going to remove some of this space here where you can see that it's silenced just based on there's no green. I'm going to go ahead and grab this end and just pull it back. What this does is it's just going to allow me to kind of clean this up without having to split it and create a whole new clip and then delete it. It's good especially for very ends and beginnings when you're just cleaning up your stuff. I'm going to click and drag, so I've got Aaron's track. Okay, there we go. So now let's take a listen.
Californians don't usually vote for tax.
There we go. So not a lot. You don't hear Aaron taking a big breath at the beginning. Let's check the end. Oh, a little bit of space. Now for this one, I'm going to do something. You can take both of these with snapping on, just mash them right together, but it sounds a little bit unnatural. So there's not quite a pause. Typically at the end of sentences, people take a pause. So I'm going to add just a little bit of space in between so that there's a natural pause between Aaron's two sentences. There we go. That sounds much better. I'm going to click and drag, move over through here. Beyond life support. Okay, so let me go ahead. I'm going to move these two together. Let's listen to what it sounds like.
And without this injection of
Okay, well, his interview, he starts with this and. That doesn't sound the best. Let's make him sound a little bit better here. So I'm going to do something that's called keyframing. It's also sometimes called banding or rubber banding. If you do any video editing, you may end up using this as well. Using the same volume line, I'm going to click once and release, and you're going to see that it added a keyframe here, this little diamond. So keyframes work together in sets of twos. So what I'm doing is saying, at this point, I'm going to do some type of edit. So in this case, it's going to be the end of my edit. Over here, I'm going to click and add another one. So I've got a set of two. And then I'm just going to grab this and bring this down. So this is the volume. So I just made two adjustments. I said between here and here, I want the audio to kind of fade up. So let's listen to it. So you still kind of hear him saying and, but it's not the sudden like and. It's adding some nuances in there. I'm going to improve this even a little bit more by clicking and dragging this keyframe and just expanding it out a little bit. And I'm going to move this guy over so it's a little bit of a faster fade in. I'm going to do a little bit of overlapping. This is the cool thing about tracks is you can click and drag. And I'm just going to overlap this since his volume doesn't really start until right here. And let's listen.
without this injection of oxygen,
There we go. It's starting to sound better. I could do a little bit more tweaking, but let's keep moving. So I'm going to scroll over here, grab, and move over. So this is the end of his track. Nope, way too big a gap there. I'm going to do the same thing. Cut this back a little bit. Line these guys up. Take a listen.
Here's Rick Jacobs.
Listen, kind of missed it.
Here's Rick Jacobs.
Oh, it looks like I may have these in the wrong order. Well, that's okay. It's easy to fix. Yeah, so I've got these in the wrong order. Well, no problem. Nice part about multi-track is you can click, move this guy over, move this one back. So this is his introduction track. Oh, Aaron needs a little bit of a pause there to complete his sentence. Still a little bit fast. I'll give it a little bit more. I'm just clicking and moving the playhead and then hitting pause. So spacebar. Okay, that should be good. And let's listen to his out one. Go ahead and move this guy in there. Do the same thing. Okay, sounds good. Okay, so it's starting to look pretty good. Let's listen to this out cue. And I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing and just tighten this up. So this isn't necessarily from a journalistic aspect the best edit in terms of it's not really telling the story. Make sure that you're telling a story. This is more just teaching you guys a quick reminder on how to edit. Now we've got all this extra time at the end. It's a good idea to leave about 2 or 3 seconds of time here at the end. I'm just going to eyeball it. There we go. That's about right. So we've got some audio so that when we're playing it back during Annenberg Radio News during the live broadcast, we've got a little bit of a buffer, a couple extra seconds.
Radio News.
Cool. Okay, so we've got kind of a basic editing. Now I'm going to go through and listen to the whole thing and just make sure it sounds good. Okay, so I've listened to the whole thing. Sounds good. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out here. Right now, I've only got one place that I've done rubber banding or keyframing. If there were times that I wanted to emphasize some of the audio in the background, let's say they started shouting just at this one point right here, you can do edits in the middle as well. So I'm going to do a set of 4. So I'm going to start in and out. And I'm gonna do, there we go. So the background audio then is gonna get quite a bit louder.
Says is currently on life support. Here's Rick Jacobs.
And it's not in the best spot, but you can see how you can move through an audio clip and make little adjustments. To remove keyframes, just do right click, delete selected keyframes, and you'll see that it'll return back to its normal audio. One thing I did notice is that back here, he says "we" twice, kind of really fast there. So I'm going to use keyframes here and just drop out a word, make him sound a little bit better. So I'm going to do beginning and end, and I'm just going to drop this whole thing out. So I'm using 4 points here. I could also split it, but this way it kind of keeps the same time the same.
Resources fear that the California dream as we know it.
So this sounds pretty good. I've got the whole thing. I've got some fades. I didn't get very complicated here since this is just a refresher. But now I'm going to do Control S, and let's start the export. For exporting, make sure that all your solos are off so that you can see all the tracks. And I'm going to go through and do multi-track, mix down session to new file, entire session. It's going to go through and create a single one in waveform view. And play. Okay, sounds good at the beginning. Sounds good at the end. Okay, so let's just do a light effect. There are lots of effects in Adobe Audition, but this is one that's just going to kind of smooth out the edges. If you guys want to play around with it, you can find lots of cool effects out there. So under effects, I'm going to do amplitude and compression. I'm going to do a normalize and a process. I'm going to make sure that it's set to -3 decibels. I'm going to normalize all channels equally. And hit apply. You can see that the waveforms here kind of expanded. So -3 dB is where we were aiming for. It just brought up the audio levels a little bit just to match those -3 dB, which is kind of a broadcast standard. That's done. I'm going to go ahead and save it out. One thing I want to double check though is up under Edit, I want to convert sample type. I just want to make sure that these settings are good before I export. 44-100, channel same as source, and 16-bit. We set these in the beginning, but it's always a good idea to double check here at the end. Do OK, nothing changed. Now I'm going to be able to export. I'm going to do File, Save As, Training with the date, and mix down, which is important so that I know that this is the final version I was working from. But, oh, look at that. Location's wrong. I want to make sure that I put it in the server so that we can play back. So MB Audio. And training mix down looks good. I want to make sure that it's a WAV PCM, since that's how we broadcast, is using WAV files, since it's the highest quality possible. Click Save. Looks good. All these look good. Click OK, and wait as it saves it to the server. Okay, so it's saved to the server. So now it's all set for broadcast, and I can go into NewsBoss and set it for playback, add the sound clips to my scripting, and get it all ready for broadcast. I also, while I'm here, want to go ahead and just make a copy for myself that I can email home and have parents listen to, or just email it to myself to show it for friends. I'm going to do File, Save As, and rather than putting it on NewsBoss, I'm going to go ahead and add it to my Radio Public, my People folder, and then down here under my name, look for the dates, training. I'm going to leave it the same name just so I know. But rather than doing a PCM wave, I'm going to do it as an MP3. You can see there's nothing else in here. When I do file save, all these settings look good, did a nice high quality, do okay. I'm going to get this warning that says, hey, this is a lossy format. We're compressing it so it's easier to email. Typically, MP3 files are going to be fine. We don't use them in the radio broadcast just because they're a little bit lower quality, and we want our live broadcast to be just as good as possible. But if you try emailing those WAV files that you saved to the MB audio, your email is not going to be liking you, or you'll take up lots of extra space on your hard drive. So this is just a copy I'm keeping for myself. I'm also using this because MP3s are the format that I need to use to upload to the Annenberg Radio News website. So I'm going to say, okay, lossy formats, good enough. There we go. Now I have an MP3 file sitting in my people folder. So let's take a look here. Yep, it's an MP3 format, and the other one's on NewsBoss. And there you have it. There's a quick refresher course in editing audio for Annenberg Radio News.